So now we will start by calling Keir Starmer to move the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the motion in my name and the other names on the order sheet for today. Mr. Speaker, the motion I've tabled seeks to defend the simple principle that honesty, integrity and telling the truth matter in our politics. Every time one of these arguments is trotted out, the status of this House is gradually eroded and our democracy becomes a little weaker, because the convention that Parliament must not be misled and that in return we don't accuse each other of lying are not curious quirks of this strange place. They're fundamental pillars on which our constitution is built.
But I have to say now, the possibility of that really, for me, has gone. I have to say, I'm sorry, that for not obeying the letter and the spirit, and I think we have heard that the Prime Minister did know what the letter was, the Prime Minister now should be long gone. Madam Deputy Speaker, I'll certainly vote for this motion, but really, the Prime Minister should just know the gig's up.
It should be a place venerated by those of us given the singular honour of being sent here. Now, of course, it can be a pantomime, a farce, turgidly boring, obscure, but it should always be reasonably honest. And it is for that, I hope not naive principle, that I cannot support the amendment and I will vote for the main motion.
We can't tone down the seriousness of this matter. I was in the Prime Minister's constituency earlier this week. It's the neighbouring constituency to mine, the London Borough of Hillingdon. We're campaigning in the elections. And yeah, there is some shift in vote from Tory to Labour because of this issue. But that isn't the significant issue. The significant was the number that we were finding totally disillusioned now, who'd had enough of this system, were blaming the system itself. That's what we're fighting for here. This is what we're campaigning for here. We're campaigning to restore the credibility in the democratic processes of our country.
I have made my disquiet known to the Prime Minister a couple of times now, and he has taken that on board. I am deeply unhappy at the way Number 10 has performed over this period in question. But what I would suggest to the Right Honourable Member is that it's perfectly natural in this country that you weigh all the evidence before deciding on intent, because the central issue here is whether the Prime Minister misled Parliament. Would you agree that, in us all accepting that it should be referred to the Privileges Committee, that committee needs to weigh all evidence before coming to a decision, and that includes the Sue Gray report?
But there is still in the order paper, even if the government is not going to move it now, an amendment which would indicate that not everybody in this House shares his view about the importance of these principles. So does he share my view that at the conclusion of this debate there should be a division so that we know where every single member of this House stands in relation to this principle? Because at a time like this, on an issue like this, there should be no hiding place for anyone.
There is one reason why it is so important that this motion is debated and passed today. Because at the very heart of the scandal, there is one thing that needs to be said, one thing that needs to be heard, and it's the very reason that we all need to act. And the reason is this, that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom is a liar. I genuinely don't say that lightly, and I don't say it loosely. I honestly believe that it's right that we are slow to use that word. But I equally believe that it is right that we should never be slow to say it and to call it out when it is so obviously true. And the truth contains no ifs, no buts, and no maybes. Mr. Speaker, the House was misled.
Hear, hear.
And so were the public. And we were all misled deliberately because the Prime Minister knew the truth.
Yep.
Not only were parties happening, not only was the law broken, the Prime Minister was that the very parties he denied had even happened. The truth is simple, and it's this. He lied to avoid getting caught.